What's up, guys? How's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing pretty well. I'm actually in a pretty good mood right now. This week's been kind of a good. I had a really great weekend, and I am pretty, excited to, just pretty excited over things that are going on, in my life right now. So, I hope everything's going great with y'all. Um, I thought I would do something different for this video. In this video, I'm not going to be talking about movies. I'm actually going to be talking about one of my other passions, and that is reading. And I've always loved to read ever since I was really young. And, it's always been, just another escape. It's just been another thing that I've always enjoyed doing. Usually if I'm not watching TV or YouTube, or if I'm not watching a movie, I'm probably reading a book. And I've built up a pretty big, well, not pretty big, it's not really big, but a pretty good book collection. And I thought that some of you guys would be interested in seeing, the types of books I enjoy reading. I mostly collect any type of book. I enjoy reading, all types, anything from young adult novels to, rock and roll biographies. I'm always open to new, different types of books. And yeah, I just thought you guys would enjoy seeing it. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get into it. These are my two bookshelves I have in my room. I know it's not a big collection, but I still enjoy, what I have. On the first row is my music biographies. I love reading about, my favorite rock and roll bands or my favorite rock and roll artists. So these are all music biographies. And then I have some novels down here. And over here I have my Stephen King books, Harry Potter, and you guys know I'm a fan of Wizard of Oz, so I have all my Wizard of Oz books underneath here. So without further ado, I'm going to get into it. I'm going to start off with the top shelf, which is my music biographies. And the first one I'm going to come to, this is actually my dad's book, but he didn't really like it, so he gave it to me. But it is Ghost Rider, Travelers on the Healing Road. And this book was written by Neil Peart, who you guys might know is the drummer for the rock band Rush. And Rush has always been one of my favorite bands, and Neil Peart is definitely my favorite drummer. He's my dad's favorite drummer as well. And Neil Peart's actually written several different books, and this was the first book that my dad got. He got it off Amazon and he got it used, so it's not in that good a condition, but my dad was not a big fan of this book, but I still haven't read it, so I'll be sure to check that out sometime. Because, like I said, Neil Peart is one of my personal heroes. Another personal hero of mine, Slash. Now, if you guys know me, my favorite band of all time is Guns N' Roses. I've always loved that band ever since I was about 3 or 4 years old when I saw a video of them live, and I've always wanted to know everything about Guns N' Roses, and I've been trying to get as many books as I can, and this was one of the first ones I got. This is Slash's autobiography, which is awesome. If you're a fan of Guns N' Roses or Slash, this is definitely a book I highly recommend. Basically it's just him talking about his entire career. He goes into really great detail about Guns N' Roses' early days, and it's just a very well done, really, really good book. It's got tons of awesome pictures, and, like I said, if you're a fan of Slash, this is one I definitely recommend, because that's probably one of the better books to get on Guns N' Roses, their history. And now these next two books are about Jim Morrison. I'm not a huge, massive fan of the Doors, but Jim Morrison has always been somebody that's always interested me. Just the way that he acted, of how to, he was so over the top and so crazy, and then he was also very shy and very vulnerable. And, I think that relates to me because I can be careless and I can just, be having a good time and just go all out, but at the same time, I'm a very quiet, very, just self person. I don't, I don't communicate very well with others sometimes, in conversations. So Jim Morrison's always been somebody that I've connected to. So the first book I got is a book of his poetry, and it's The Lost Writings of Jim Morrison, Wilderness, Volume 1. I have not read this yet, but I'm interested in checking it out. It's basically just a collection of his poetry. I hope to get the second volume of that soon. And then this is the biography, and it's No One Here Gets Out Alive, the biography of Jim Morrison. And I actually just finished reading this, and I must say I loved this book. It goes into every single bit of detail you could want about, Jim's life, and it's just a really, really awesome read. If anybody is a fan of Jim Morrison, this is definitely one that I highly recommend picking up. It's a really, really great book. I've not read any other biographies on Jim Morrison, so I can't compare them. But from my own personal, experience, this was actually the first biography ever published on Jim Morrison, and it's a really, really good one. But like I said, that's the only one that I've read. But I've really enjoyed that one. And now, this was actually the first rock and roll book that I ever bought, and it is Watch You Bleed: The Saga of Guns N' Roses. Now, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of Guns N' Roses. Like I said, they're my favorite band, and I've always wanted to get every single book or anything about the band that I could to learn their history. And this was the first book that I ever got. This was written by Stephen Davis, and although this is a good book, it's really detailed, it goes through their entire career, there are some flaws in it that you cannot get over. First off, he got Axl Rose's birth date wrong in the book. And when you read it, you're like, how can you get the lead singer's birth date wrong when you're writing a book about his band, And it's common knowledge stuff. And he made other mistakes, like he said that Bon Jovi's album Slippery When Wet came out in 1987, which it didn't. It's just like there's just factual errors in this book that anybody with a common knowledge of Guns N' Roses or a common knowledge of rock music could tell you, and it just ruins the book in some way. So I would only recommend this one if you've read other books on Guns N' Roses and you just want something else to read. But if this is your first time, like biography of Guns N' Roses, I would not recommend this one, just on the errors that this book has, But, other than the errors, it's not a bad read. It's just, the errors are just, Alright, now the last couple books on this shelf are all about somebody that I really relate to a lot, somebody that I look up to as a hero, even though he never wanted to be looked at as a hero, but I do, and it's Kurt Cobain. And, I relate a lot to Kurt, in his life. He always felt alienated. He always felt lonely, which I do too, a lot. Back when I was in high school, I was bullied a lot. I didn't go to clubs. I didn't go to parties or whatever, mostly because I was never invited to them. And, these are just all the books that I have, because I've actually wanted to know anything and everything I could about Kurt. And, I'm just going to go ahead and, get into these real quick. So the first one I got is Come As You Are, the story of Nirvana, which was the first Nirvana biography that was published back in 1993 before Kurt died. And it features interviews with the entire band. I have not read the book yet, but I do plan to. And it's just from what I've heard it's a really great book. Of course they republished it and added a new chapter after Kurt died. So this is basically one of the better Nirvana biographies. But like I said, I have not read it. I've just heard that it's really great. And now we're just going to get into just books that are just about Kurt's life. And like I said, I always want to know everything I can about him, so I've just been collecting just different books on his life. The first one is Heavier Than Heaven, a biography of Kurt Cobain by Charles R. Cross. And this was one of the first biographies published about Kurt. And I know that, this is a love or hate book for people. Some people really enjoy it, and then some people, they don't like it because of the last couple of chapters. I'm not going to get into it, but to be honest, this is probably the most detailed and well-written biography of Kurt Cobain that there is, and it's probably the most deep. You pretty much know everything that there is to know about Kurt Cobain from this book, from the point he, was born to the point he died. So, despite its criticisms, it's probably one of my favorite rock and roll biographies. I really love that book. Now I'm showing up a book that I'm recently reading, and this book actually came out a couple weeks ago, but it's Here We Are Now, the lasting impact of Kurt Cobain. And it's basically, it was written by Charles R. Cross, who also wrote Heavier in Heaven. It's basically just, a book about, how Kurt affects lives today, and what he means to people now. I just started reading it, but from what I've read so far, it's basically going to go into, how he affects everybody, how music, how fashion, how just everything has changed since he committed suicide, or, since he had his career. And I'm really looking forward to reading this book. Like I said, it just came out a few weeks ago, so it's still pretty new. And now the last two books I'm going to show off. This first one is Cobain Unseen, which is basically just a collection of photographs of Kurt, which was also done by Charles R. Cross. This is a really great book. It has tons of pictures. It has handwritten, pages from his journal. It has experts of interviews. It has like little mini items thrown in there. Like there's this little mask that he made. And it's just a replica of the mask, but, Kurt was very artistic, and he knew how, and he made a lot of stuff, with plaster or whatever, and, it really goes into detail about his artwork, and just, pretty much everything. This is a great, component to the, to the Heavier in Heaven biography. And the last one I'm going to show off for this video is the Kurt Cobain Journals, which is basically just, they publish his journals into a book. This is a bigger copy of it, and it's the red one. I know that they made several copies with different covers, but mine is red. I got this used from a friend, so I got it for free. And I love what it says on the front. If you read, you'll judge. But yeah, this is just another way of learning about Kurt and learning about how he felt about things, and how he, just how he thought about life. In general, and about this, I know that this has been criticized for coming out, but I think that the best way to learn Kurt would probably have been to sit down and read his journals, because that really, brought you into his world, and it really helped a lot of people understand him. But that is part one. I know this was a pretty long video already, and I'm probably going to split this video up into, I'm going to probably do 3 parts to this. But I just wanted to go into detail about these books up here. The next shelves, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. So this, the next 2 parts won't be very long. I might just do, part 2, maybe. I don't know if I'll do part 3. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching part 1. I hope you guys didn't get bored listening to me, babble on about books I enjoyed. But yeah, I'm going to be posting part 1 soon, and part 2 I'll go into all these ones, and I'll try to get the rest of them in part 2. So anyway, guys, thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and I'll see everybody in part 2.